Okay, we're up to Mem Beis Amid Beis. We're up to Mem Beis Amid Beis. We are a few lines from the bottom. What I've been discussing. The Gemara was discussing. Actually, I don't remember what the Gemara said. No, I do remember what I was discussing. Well, whether can you add on Tumah to Tumah? Can you add on Tumah to Tumah? In other words, our Mishnah had stated that if a Nazir is Tameh, and you warn him and he becomes Tameh again, and you warn him and he becomes Tameh again, each time he's going to get Malchus. Rabbi said in the name Rav Huna that you cannot go, if a person is in the state of Tumah, if the Nazir is in the state of Tumah, you can't add on to Tumah of that. Rabbi Yosef vehemently disagreed in the name of Rav Huna and said you could add on to Tumah. And l'chayra, you have a raya from a Mishnah like Rabbi Yosef that you could add on to Tumah because we said he's going to get Malchus again. So how do we go ahead and reconcile the sheet of Rabbah? We said it's speaking by something called Tumah Chiburin. In other words, there's a difference between when the mace is connected to the person or not. We spoke at just to reiterate. You have a mace, Ruvain's touching the mace, and Shimon's touching Ruvain. If at the time Shimon touches Ruvain isn't connected to the mace, Shimon is going to be tamei for 7 days. If, however, Ruvain is disconnected from the mace, now Ruvain is an avatuma because he touched the mace. If Shimon touched him, he'll be tamei, but he'll only be tamei tumas erev. So, in fact, if you are connected to a mace, you cannot add onto that tuma because you are maxed out. In other words, you are tamei 7. The guy touched you was tamei 7. You're maxed out. Conversely, if you're not even disconnected from the mace, your capacity to transmit tumah would only be limited to making the person tummy until the evening. And therefore, when you go ahead and become tummy again, your level of tumah went up because now you have the capacity to be matama another individual for 7 days. That was the we saw. Now we said that we began the Gemara that there's two distinct halachas. There's halacha of and then lo yitama bal ba'amav. Now we said, and also the lashon kol yimei hiziru Hashem al nefesh meis lo yavai. We said that it's possible that you should not come on to what lo yavai. You should not come on to a mace. So in other words, pashtus, a person is tahar, a nazir is tahar. He walks into a house that has a mace in it, so he's over on two things. One, he's tamei, and two, he's over on the misl lo yavai. He brought tumah onto himself. The Gemara now is going to deal with the mitzias of that case. How is it possible to be over the Isra of Lo Yavai and the Isra of Lo Yitama? Let me just... L'chaim. Aval Tumah v'Tumah Loi. 3 lines to the bottom. But Tumah v'Tumah Loi. Why? If a person is maxed out in his tumah, you can't go ahead and contract more tumah. Right? Tumah would be a nami. The case that you said above, you chayiv for 2 things. You chayiv for tumah and you chayiv for lo yavoi. Also, how is that possible? How can you be over lo yavoi if you already are tameh? Amar Rav Yochanan, kan bebayis, kan besodeh. In other words, we're trying to figure out the mitzias. How is it possible to be over on 2? If you're tummy already, and then you walk into a house with tumah, so you didn't gain anything, you didn't do anything more. So where's the isser? So it must be speaking the bias. You have a house, you are tahor, you walk into the house, and simultaneously b'vasachas you're over on tumah, and you're over on basachas. B'sadeh, where there is no oil, then it will be tumah after tumah, right? And therefore the case of lo yavai would not apply. Sadeh means lav dafka sadeh, means a place that you don't have an oil. Amid aleph from the Gimel Amid aleph. Read the Gemara, bebayis nami in a house as well. Even the oil yodei is stoiv. When you're walking, right? Ki ayli kula hai tamehu. Funny lashon. Picture a person walking. Picture a house that's full of tumah. When he walks in this house, people usually walk with their hands. He extends his hand into the house, right? So now, once he extends his hand into the house, he's tameh. Now, when he walks into the house, so what did you do? What did you gain? Where's the little yavai over there? He is tamei already. He's tamei. Says the Gemara, El Amar et Raulaza, Sirif Yadai, if he extends his hand, Mishum Toma Ikka, Mishum Bialeka. You're tamei, but you don't have bia. Again, it's mashma that bia means that you are tahar and you're bringing the tumah onto yourself. If you walked into the house, your hand goes in first, so you're tamei. Therefore, when you walked in, there's no layava, you're tamei already. You didn't bring tumah onto yourself. You're in a state of tumah. So how's it possible to bring tumah onto yourself if you're already tamei? That's the worst problem. So the lashon of Nadar of Naz's Mishuna, we're repeating the question again. Sirif Yadai, if he extends his hand, Mishum Tuma Ika, because his hand's in a Tamei Tika house, Mishum Bioleka. But again, since he's in a state of Tuma, he's not Layaba, he's not bringing Tuma onto himself. It's Sirif Gufay Tuma, and if he extends his body in, be a Tuma Bahadi Adadikasu. So therefore, what must the case be? He walks in with his hands not extended. So his hands are on his side, he's walking in, and Bivas Achas, the tumah and the bia happen at the same time. Since he didn't extend his hand, he's tahar. If he walks in like this, like a penguin, and he's walking into the house like this, but vasachas, it happens at the same time. Read the Gemara, an obvious question. 1 second. As soon as he walks in, what's the first part of his body? If it's not his hands, that's going to come to his house. Is his nose. His nose goes in the house. He's tamei. So where's the layavai? He already is tamei. So again, just view the nose as the hand, meaning the tumah takes place before the layavai. I need the layavai to be in the state of taira. It's not in the state of taira. He's tamei. Ella amarava. What's the case? Hichnis yadai mishum tumah ika mishum bialeka. If he goes ahead, what? He sticks his hand in. Mishum tuma ika mishum bialeka. Hichnis gufay tuma bia bahadei adadei. Ka'asyan. Okay, again, funny lashon. What happens? Let's say he walks in with his face kind of this way. In other words, he's walking in with his head back, and his nose is not coming in, and his body, in other words, his body is coming in at the same time. Now, that's the teretz. We want that his body comes in at the same time as him. So the him is the bia coming in, and his body is the tumah, right? So as long as there's not one part of his body coming in, and I can have the vasachas, the layavai, and the tumah, that's the case. For the Gemara, it's very hard to get that case. It's batoi the kare beresha the nachas le tumah. The act of walking, fellas, when you go ahead and extend your foot. So now, you answered up the hand. Good, you answered up the nose. But your foot goes in first. So in other words, again, the same problem. The tum is coming before the bia. How do you have the mitzias of this case that you said that Rabbi said in the name of Huna that it's possible Layitama and Layavai? How do you have such a case? Elamar Papa, I got a great case. Right? Now, Pasha, you could say, guys, let's say he walks in backwards. Let's say he walks in backwards, right? Then his foot would not be extended, right? So Tosfos and the Rashba point out, you need derech bia, you need normal way. In other words, it has to be you walking normally, no crazy way. So therefore, that can't be. If he taps in, but carrying again, it extends his hand, he's going to be tummy. So now, what about, we had this famous case. Amra Pap, gan shenichlis b'shida teva umigdol, right? He comes into the house in some type of encapsulated oil. In other words, he's in a box, some types of coach. He's carried in. So right now he's in a state of Tyra. He's totally tahar. Good. And Bochaveroi comes along his friend, upara lov esamaziva, and he rips open the bottom. So what's happening? Bivas achas, you get the tumah and the bia that's coming simultaneously. So when he walked in, he never walked in, he was carried in. So, and he had the barrier of the Shida Teva Migdal stopping from the tumah being kachal on him. Once his friend rips away the bottom, then they're both, it's coming, the bia and the tumah coming vasachas. You'll be over two lavim. The Rishonim point out, by Tosfos in the Rush, that it must be speaking where he aided the friend in removing the bottom. Because if he didn't, how can you be chayv malchus? He did nothing. In other words, he has to do the aveira. If he's sitting there, passively, what's he doing? So therefore, obviously, he must be doing something. So let me do something now. So the tumah and the bia are happening simultaneously. And since that's happening at the same time, we have our case. So the first case is a papa. He going ahead, shida teva migdol. He aids the person in removing the bottom, and therefore it's tameh. Ma'abar Avashi, he gives a very interesting case. Kigoin, the ayil kishahu goises. He walks into the house, and there's no tumah in the house. You have a person who is on his deathbed. Person's dying, and he walks into the house. So right now he's in a state of tyra. As soon as the person transpires and dies, then the bia and the tumah will happen simultaneously, right? The bia and the tumah will happen simultaneously when he goes ahead right and he walks into the. So therefore, the nafik nishma say adi yasif. So and then the neshama leaves while he's sitting. The tumah ubia bahadi adadikasi. That the tumah and bia they happen simultaneously. They happen at the same time. Now, why do you have to learn the case of a geisis? Why don't you just learn the case of what? Of a regular Joe, regular guy. The nurse is in the house. The guy unfortunately dies, and now the tumah and the bia happens at the same time, because then he won't be mechayev. Over here, since roiv geisis and lemisa, most people who are on their deathbeds die, so he's guilty of going into that house. He's guilty of going into the house. Okay, so we have two mitzvahs. Okay, let's go over it. Kasha. We began yesterday's daf. In the middle of yesterday's daf, Rabbi said that it's possible to be over two averas: the avera of tumah and the avera of coming into the house when there's tumah, and you're in a state of tyra. We're trying to figure out the mitzias of the case. In a normal manner, it's not possible. In a normal manner, it's not possible because he's going to be tumah before the bia of him coming into the house. So it must be speaking in a case where he came into the house with tyra, even though there was tumah in the house. How is it possible to be in a state of tyra? You were in a shida teva migdal, and then you went ahead and took away the bottom with your friend, and therefore the tum and the bia came at the same time. Or you walked into the house and the house was tahor because there was no dead person in the house. However, there was going to go be a dead person in the house. He's right, guys. The person that you came to in the house was lying on his deathbed, and since roiv guys in the misa, you should be more careful. Person dies, you chayev for what? For the misa and the bia at the same time. Okay, Tan Rabbana. Okay, what does the pasuk say? This is the pasuk. We're gonna have psukim by Kahanim, guys, and we're gonna have psukim by Nazir. Again, the Nazir and the Kohen are both warned about Tumah, albeit the Nazir is even more warned. The Nazir is like a Kohen Gadol. He can't be matama to his relatives. The Kohen is able to be matama to the 7 relatives. He's not being able to matama to the relatives. Okay, but the pasuk says the following. Here's the pasuk. Lo yitama, but this is what it says by the Kohen. Lo yitama bal ba'amav leichaloi. He should not be metama ba'amav to his nation leichaloi to mechalal his state of kedusha. That's the pasuk by that's the pasuk by Kohen. What's the pasuk by Nazir? La'aviv uleimay la'achiv v'lachaisay lo yitama lehem b'maisam, to his father, his mother, his brother, his sister. The Nazir should not be metama to them. The Moisam in their death, the Nazir, the crown of Hashem is kedusha is upon him. Okay, so we have 2 psukim, one by Kohen, one by Nazir, Muzir. Okay, what Tan Rabbana? It says leichaloi that the Kohen is warned leichaloi to leichaloi. Now be aware that the lashon leichaloi is lashon of cholol, guys. A cholol is a corpse. Okay, there's a play on words over here. Leichaloi means to profane, to be machalel, right? Leyachel devoroi, we have by Nedorim. But this is play on words, is a cholol is a corpse. So it says over here, it says leichaloi atsho sheyamus, that the kohen, when does the tumah transcend upon him? Only when the person's dead. Rabbi says, what to say by the Nazir? B'maisam, when they're dead. In other words, it's mashma from over here that the only time they're tamei is when there's a dead body, when there's a cholol, or when there's maisam, a corpse. So what's the difference between the word echaloi of a corpse by a kohen and b'maisam by a nazir? In both cases, you're requiring a dead person. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yitamei Achayamas. My binayu. What's the significant difference between the two? Says the Gemara, there is Rabbi Yochanan, there is no difference. The question is, Where do you derive the source from? That until the person's dead, there's no Isser. According to one Tana, it's from the Kayin, Leichaloi. According to the other one, it's from Nazir bin Maisam. So again, the only shayla is where you derive from, but halachically speaking, there is no nafkamina. Reish Lakish says, no, there's a nafkamina, guys, and there's a huge nafkamina. Can a Kayin, is he muzer in staying away from a goisis? Is a Nazir muzer in staying away from a goisis? Can a Kayin go to visit a person who's holding by his deathbed? Would it be us or not? Says Reish Lakish, it depends. Reish Lakish Amar, goisis it could be nayu. A person on the deathbed would be the nafkamina and halacha between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Lemanda me'al according to Rabbi Yochanan, leichaloi afilu goisis. The derech what, even though Rav Goisesin is lemisa, so he's considered a chalol. Lemanda yamim b'moisam ad sheyamis, right? In goises loy. Okay, so according to this, Lemanda yamim says what? Leichaloi, that you would be usher, the one who learns it from chalol. In other words, since Rav Goisesin will end up being hechaloi, will end up being corpses. A kayin is muzer, a nazir is muzer, not to go ahead near a goises. According to Rebbe ben Maisam, they need to physically be dead. So again, huge nafkamin in halacha. Can a kayin go visit a person who is holding by the deathbed? According to the way Reish Lakish learns from hechalo, you cannot. According to Rebbe ben Maisam, you need an actually dead person. Like Rabbi Yochanan, there's no nafkamina. Like Reish Lakish, nafkamina is leichaloi. What since most Rav Goisesin Lemisa, he's considered a chalal already, guys. You hear this? He's alive, but he's considered a chalal because since majority of Goisesin do die, he's considered dead, even though he's not. And according to Rebbe, no, he has to physically be dead. The Gemara now is going to question this limud of Reish Lakish in this nafkamina regarding the Goises. Okay, the man who says they learn some the one who learns that from Kayin, what does he do from the pasuk of Nazir? He needs it for another din of Rabbi. The Tanya Rabbi Omer b'moisam eina metama, that right? Aval metama, right? He can't. The Kayin or the Nazir cannot be metama to a corpse. Aval metama b'negasam ubezivasam. There are other avis hatuma. Not only a person that a mace that should be a voice, mitzvah is an avatuma. A zava or a zav is an avatuma. Can a koyin or a nazir be metama to a zav or a mitzvah? The answer is yes. Yes, he could. He can't be metama b'moisam. He can't be metama to what? A mace, but he could be metama to what? To a mitzvah and or a zav or zav. According to Rebbe, who learns from b'moisam. He needs it to teach me. He needs it to teach me that what? That a koyin could be metama to, or his nazir could be metama to a zav or a mitzvah. So where does he? How could he use it to teach me that until the person dies? Says the Gemara, right? In Kain lemakra b'mois. It was only time to teach me one din. Just say b'mois. My b'moisam. So here two dinim. One, that you can only be metama when the person's actually dead, and the maisam. In addition, you added the sum. You could teach me that he could be metama to a mitzvah and or a zav. Like Rebbe, who learns that from the word b'maisam, what does he do with the pasuk from Kayin? He uses the nazir as the source that can't be metama. What does he do with the chaloi of the Kayin? Says more like the din of Rabba, that where is the Kayin Mutzava in Tuma, only Kayin that's tar, but a Kayin that's in a state of Tuma, right? That is the state of Tuma, then he would be Nemechayev. This is again Rabbi's pshat and Rav Huna that a Kayin that's Tameh or a Nazir that's Tameh is not Muzer in Tuma. So he uses it for that. So you need it for this svara that a person could be is not over a second issa. How could he use it to teach me that what he's only tamei beichaloi? So a svara The pasuk should say, if only one thing, one thing, it's say lahasel, my lahechaloi, shma minotati. You had two dinim. He had the din that he's not Muslim and Tumah, he can't be more tummy than he is, and secondly that only when he becomes a chalal he would be tummy. Meisrei, we're going to say kasha on Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said in Afkamina between Rabbi Yochanan and between the Tana who learns from Hechaloi by the Parsha of Koyin and the Tana learns from Masam and the Parsha of Nazir. Then Afkamina was like Hechaloi, that you could even go ahead and the Koyin would be Muzar to stay away from a Gaises, again, even before he's dead. I'll ask you, I'll show you. It's only when he's dead. Meisrei Adam ein metama elat shetesi nafshay. Right? An Adam is only metama when this is a Mishnah in Oilis. At which point in time can a person go ahead and transmit tumah? Only when he's dead. Even if he's stabbed multiple times and he's bleeding out, he's wounded, you know he's going to die. He's a geisis. And even a geisis, right? He could be, right? Then what? He's not metama to them, right? Like Reish Lakish that says you can't be metama. Over here, the Mishnah Oila says you could be metama. You know, it's not only when he's physically dead, not when he's going to die, only when he is dead. Kasha on the way Reish Lakish learned the nafkamina between Hechaloi and B'maisam, who said Lechaloi that the Koyin and the Nazir would be warned to stay away from a geisis. Over here, the Mishnah Oila says, no, don't worry. Only when he's dead is there a problem of Tumah. Kasha Reish Lakish says Gemara, fascinating. Le'inyan Tmuyeh, regarding Tumah, that you're going to have to go ahead and count 7 days. Adinaf Ganafshe. Only until he's dead do you have to go ahead and count 7 days. However, Le'inyan Aschule Ha'askel, regarding the Kedusha, pervading their Kedusha, again, both the Koyin and the Nazir, Kodesh Yiyeh, Kodeshim Yiyu, there's a Mishnah that say, regarding the bittul of their Kedusha, that already would transpire even before the person dies, when he's a Goises. So that would be the answer to the Kasha. Again, the Kasha, Masha from the Mishnah Oilas, that until he's dead, there's no Tumah. How can Reish Lakish explain the difference between the Tanakam who learns from Echoloi and the Tana who learns from Moisam, Lecholoi, that you muzzer on a Goises, that you warned about a Goises, right? Kamash Malon, that no, you are warned about a Goises. Why? Because you shouldn't be Lecholoi, you shouldn't profane the Kedusha. It says by Yinazah Kodesh Yiyeh, it says by the Kahanim Kedoshim Yiyu, you're muzzer on that. That even before he dies, you'll be on. Now, according to Allah, there's a fascinating rush over here. Who's over here? Machloikish Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, except 3 places in Shas we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says there's no nafkamin in halacha, meaning you could be go ahead and you could go ahead and a kohen could go near a goises. There's another girsa, and the girsa is a Rabbi and Abaya. And Abai is the one who says that you could go near a Goises, and Rabbi is the one who says you can't. Machlokes Rabbi and Abai, Allah is like a Rabbi. So depending upon the girsa of who you goyris, that would impact the halacha. Okay, Yotzim Id Varenu, we have Pshat, we have the case of Bia, the case of Tum and Bia is the case of either Shida Teva Migdal or Mabar Avashi, the case of Mabar Avashi where you walked into the room when he was a Goises. Off that, we said, could you be metama to a goisis or not, or only a mace? That would depend. Like on the way you could, like Reish Lakish, you cannot. Okay, again, a majority of the Masechta, the rest of the Masechta, guys deals with the lachas of Kodshim and Tumah v'Taira. So again, introduction to Tumah v'Taira, but Baruch Hashem, we're going to do a good job. Bez Hashem. Amid Beis, Mem Gimel Amid Beis. Okay, so we know that a kohen could be metama to his relatives, a Nazir can't, but a kohen could. A kohen gadol cannot. A Nazir is like a kohen gadol, you can't. Now, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav, Lo Yoleinu Rachman Litzlan, Nektam Roishe Shel Aviv. The first person's father is beheaded. He's beheaded. Now, he could be metama to his father, pashtus to bury him. Says Rav Chisda Chiddush, Eina metama loy. The son cannot be metama to his father. The son who's the kohen cannot be metama to his father. My taima, amakra. The pasuk says la'aviv ule'imay, to his mother and to his father, right? La'achiv la'chaisai, like metama. He's able to metama. Or it says la'aviv is man shehu shalem When what? When I think I just read to you the wrong pasuk. That's the truth. I'm sorry. The pasuk I read to you was by Nazir. I'm sorry. I apologize. So he can be to his father. Says Rav Chisda, his father, when his father is shalem, his father is complete.
Anybody part?
But so Pinias, anybody part. So there's it's Marxisti Machloikas Rishonim. Seems to be some people say Roishai. Why did Dafka pick Roishai? Because the neshama is totally Roishai. It has to be something that you would go ahead and lose your life. A leg, let's say, or a toe, which you wouldn't use your life, right? They're not. Other people say no, any body part. Again, it's Machloikas Rishonim. Very, very good opinion. See that? V'nahapaku, here he is. Says the Gemara.
It's all in the paper. I wrote it down. So.
Okay, says the Gemara.
Come on, Penny, tell us the Tosfos. Tell us the Tosfos.
It's all written down, crib sheets.
Okay, so it says, so you hear this, guys. Oh, the fascinating halacha. Only this didn't decay that it could be metamet his father is only when his father is shalem, not when he's not shalem. My time, the pasuk says, "Ki mashera karve love la'aviv le'imai la'aviv is manshu shalem lo is manshu chaser." Amle Rav Hamnuna elameyata ka'azal b'paksa de arabais. He's walking in this place, this valley of arabais. It seemed to be a very dangerous place that was noted for thieves, robbers that would not leave you alive. Upasku ganve l'reishe and le'aleinu. He's walking with his father, and they decapitate his father. You're going to tell me the kohen can't be matama to his father? Kind of doesn't make any sense. So Amalei. So Rav Chisda said to Rav Hamnuna, "Meis mitzvah kamrit." He's saying a meis mitzvah. Hashli yishlema b'achrina mechayev. A kohen could go ahead and be matama meis mitzvah who's not a relative, the aviv who's a relative who's permitted to be matama to, like kol shekain, that he can be matama to him. Okay, so in other words, the fact that he could be matama over here has nothing to do with the fact that it's his father. It has to do that. It's the meis mitzvah. The Gemara, just a side point, behind meis mitzvah, who is this the meis mitzvah? But Tanya, what's the meis mitzvah? Who exactly is the meis mitzvah? We had this Gemara in Yivamis. Who's the meis mitzvah? Kol she'ein le'koivrim. Anyone who she'ein le'koivrim, he has no people to bury him. Koira, if however you can call out, and other people can answer him. Ain't a meis mitzvah? That's not a meis mitzvah. In other words, this person obviously has a son. This son, according to the Rosh, could hire people. He could call out. So how can you call this a meis mitzvah? Pashtus is not a meis mitzvah, and therefore it's a kasher of Chisda. You see, you can tell me you won't be able to bury this guy. It says Gemara, Kivin the Kozal B'Urcha, and for the Gemara, Kivin the Kozal B'Urcha, since he's going on the way, Kimi Shein LeKoivim Dami. It's like, why he has no koivim? In other words, when you're on such a desolate place, in other words, it's not easy to find people to go ahead and bury him, and therefore we constitute a meis mitzvah. Okay, so you, Rav Hamnuna, challenged me. Rav Chisda says I held court. Einachinami, if the father's not sholem, he does not have to bury the father. He can't be matama to bury the father. Okay, meisivei. Okay, now we have another pasuk. The pasuk says by Kayin, will achoise have a sula karav a love to his unmarried sister, asher loy hoisa leish, that is not married, la yitama, la tahar, he can be matama, la yitama. And again, guys, the question is going to be that you see from here, in order to go ahead for a kohen to be mitama, it has to be an intact corpse. We're going to show that it's not exactly true. Okay, la yitama, lahu mitama, tahar, he could be matama. The ain't a matama leverecha. Let's say she lost a limb. He cannot be matama to limb. The limb is contract transmits tuma. He can't be matama to one of her limbs. If he ain't a matama le'evim in achai shalaviv, he can't be matama to the limb of his father who's alive. Kol shekain, he can't be matama to his sister's limb. That's not the kasha. Aval machzahu al etzem kisoira. After he buries his father or sister, he can go back looking for the bone that's the sides of the barley bean. We know one of the things that transmits tumah, not tumas oil, but tumas maga, the tumah of touching, or tumas masa of carrying, even if you're not touching, is the bone of a mace, even the size of a barley bean. After burying one's father, he can go back and look for the etzem kasayra. Now, obviously, if he's looking for etzem kasayra, it must be a body part was missing, correct? Or else, why is he going back? If it was totally intact, why is he looking for a body part? Ella must be, when he's looking for etzem kasayra, it must be he buried the father when what? When he was not intact. So you see, even when not intact, one is permitted to go ahead and bury the father. My matzahu etzem kasayra, lavla meimra de imachusar purta, even if he's missing a little bit, he's permitted to bury. Guys, if he wasn't permitted to bury, the whole kasha does not, whole thing does not begin. You're going to go ahead and get a body part, etzem kasayra. Now, obviously, if you're tahar, you're not able to go ahead and do this. It must be that what? You buried in a state when he wasn't complete, and you're now tameh. You can go after another part. Kasha Rav Chisda. You see, you're able to bury even though the body is not intact. Okay? Loi Hakhi Reb Yehudahi. That's Reb Yehuda. In other words, we're going to see that it's a machloikis tanoim. According to Reb Yehuda, you could bury even when the body is not complete. Rav Chisda said his din in the name of Rav when another Tana. So that's the end of the Mishnah now, which we're going to go to, right? To the end of the Mishnah, which we're going to go to, we're going to say the following, that this din that Rav Chisda said in the name of Rav, that you can't bury until the body is complete, was a certain Tana. Rav Yehuda, however, is of the opinion that you could bury even though the body is not complete. This brisa that we just mentioned is Rabbi Yehuda. This brisa that we just mentioned is Rabbi Yehuda. Now, who is he? Let's introduce Rabbi Yehuda. Tanya. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer. Rabbi Yehuda says, again, quoting the pasuk of you can't be mitama the aver if your father's living. You would be able to mitama to the aver of a mace of a father, right? And therefore, since you can mitama the mace of the aver of the father, certainly you can mitama to the whole body of the father. And therefore, that brisa that said that you chayser al etzem kasayra is Rabbi Yehuda. Clearly, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion you could, just like you go after the aver of a mace of a father, certainly you can mitama the whole, burying the father totally. That's the teretz. Question on Rav Chisda. In other words, we're going to bring another brisa that says you could become tamei even if the body's not intact, and we're going to answer that's also Rav Chisda. That's also Rav Chisda. Now there are many things that are matama, guys, not just the mace. We're going to introduce some of them today. The Gemara will speak about them in the future. So I'll go through this very, very quickly. Okay, it says in Tanya of Kahana Rav Elazar ben Yaakov lo yitama. The pasuk says lo yitama. You can't go ahead and be matama to the Evarim. Probably kazayis min ames. Kazayis min ames you can't be matama to. Kazayis netzel. That netzel is, let's say, something oozes from the mace. Umali tarvid rekev. Let's say the mace decomposed in a room without wind. That was, it was buried dead. No, buried dead is usually normal. It was buried naked. In other words, there was no, in the decomposed corpse, there was no clothing whatsoever, just pure corpse, right? And you have a shovel full of that. So those you can't be matama to. However, these you could be matama to. I would think, therefore I might think, lo yitama l'shidra to a spine, ulagagoilis to a skull, ularoiv binyanai, or the majority of the bones, the height of the bones, majority, the number of the bones. I would think that you couldn't be matama. Kamashmalon, that you could. Ksiv, the pasuk says, Vayom Hashem Moshe, Emma ela kahanim. It says Emra once, Bnei Yisrael, V'amarta aleihem, and then it says a second time V'amarta. Guys, Emma once, V'amarta, a second lashon of Amira. Why the second lashon of Amira? To include other things you could be matama to. What are those other things you can be matama to? The shidra, the skull, the spine, the gagoilis, the right minion. V'amarta aleihem, hoisev la'chasiv, the Torah adds on. It says Emor, hoisev v'amarta, tuma acheres, another tuma. Lacha, I might think, Lo yitama l'shidru l'goylus l'roy binyan l'roy binyan shalat chayrim. I might think you can't be metama. So your father you could, achaisa you could, but others I would think these body parts you can't. Amarta ma achaisim yuchedes shekufa toli boy. Umetama l'shidru l'goylus l'roy binyanoi l'roy binyani af kol shekufa toli boy mitame l'shidru l'goylus l'roy binyan l'roy binyanam. So what do you see, fellas? You could be metama even if it's not complete, because you're being metama to body parts. So the akashan of Chista, Rav Chista said you can't be metama unless it's complete. Here you see it's not complete. And for this Gemara, the same teretz. Ahinami Rabbi Yehuda. That is Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda. And Rav said his din according to what a different Tana. Very geschmack. Now who is that Tana? The Rav, the Amakiyai Tana, right? Rav said according to the following Tana. The Tanya, Maisa Shemes Aviv Shel Rabbi Yitzchak Beginzik, Rabbi or Tzadik HaKoyin Beginzik. The Tzadik HaKoyin is good because it's a Koyin. Ubo Vediu Lacha Sholoshanim. You find that his father was dead after 3 years. Never. Imagine, guys, in the old days, there's no social media. I'm far away. 3 years it took to find that his father was dead. Ubo V'Sholos Rabbi Yeshua ben Elisha. It came to the Shiloh to Rabbi Yeshua ben Elisha. V'Dalas Zekanim Shimoy. In other words, with Tzadik HaKoyin, he wanted to be Matama to reinter his father, and then it would be Tameh. Obviously, after 3 years, he's not attacked anymore. They said La'aviv, when the pasuk says La'aviv, Ismanshu Shalem. Only when he's Shalem, Ismanshu Chaser, which was exactly Rav's din. So Rav has the Tana of Rabbi Yeshua ben Elisha, who holds that the only time you can be Matama Koyin is when it's intact. The prices that we said that even when it's not intact, that was the Tana Rabbi Yehuda. Wish everyone a Freilich and Yontif, a very just again the Kedushas Hayom, Simchas Yontif, guys, a tremendous union of Simcha, tremendous union of Kedusha, the Simcha, this Kima v'Kiblu, fellas. I was thinking, what's the kivun that a person should have? What's the kivun a person should have today? A person should think today that Hashem loves us. We were given the Torah, we makabel Kima v'Kiblu. By Matan Torah, we makabel b'yira. Today we're being makabel ba'ava. So, in your happiness today, just think about the love that Hashem has for us, and the love that we should have for Hashem. The love that we should have for Hashem. It's such a wonderful schus that we have. A wonderful schus that we should have. Okay, again, guys, I mamish love all of you. Thank you so much for enhancing my lives and being so much in my life. Almost all of you.
Rabbi, what time are you home until today? Are you home the whole day?
I'm home until about 3:30. I'm home about 3:30. Okay.
Yom Kippur wishes it would be like Purim. As Heilig as Yom Kippur is, Purim is even more.
Correct.
Good.